this computer. We'll share the screen.
So now start that all over.
Yeah, I will. I'm so good at remembering to do that. Thank you, Brian. That's why I have you here, Brian, is to remind me to record
I
it
figured.
and share the screen. So welcome everybody. This to yet again another session of Civil Chat, where it's your chance to ask us questions about anything and everything civil related with the Autodesk software. My name is Brian. With me is Brian, and without us is Brian as well. Apparently, Brian Tomasi has decided that he doesn't want to join us today because he doesn't work on his birthday. Ooh. So
This
if
is
you're friends with
I
him on
still don't get how he
LinkedIn or
justifies
something,
this as
go shoot him
work.
a happy birthday.
I don't know how he justifies this as work, so I'm still
Right?
confused in that.
So yeah, so if you've not attended before, we got quite a few folks. Thanks everybody for showing up. This is you ask questions. I do my best to answer them. Brian will help out as he can. He's more of the Revit side of things, but amazingly, he has some good insight. So um, the chat is great if you want to go chat and heckle and comment on things. If you've got to ask a question, though, please put it in the Q&A panel. It makes our lives a lot easier trying to make sure that we've answered the questions or ignored the ones we don't want to answer. Um, things along those lines. Now, before we get started, I always like to start off with something, just a tip or something. And what I've got a very, very large surface here. This surface has like 200 some odd thousand points. This is actually a third of the original surface, but you don't want to have to deal with a surface this big. So if I go into my surface properties here, you can see that the number of points that we have in here is 212,000 points. Now, this isn't the largest surface I've ever seen by any stretch of the means, and it's not even like the largest surface I recommend. I usually recommend people never go any higher than 900,000 points, right? And the reason is because if you're over 1 million points, if you're at 1 million points or more, then it starts writing the MMS files, and nobody likes dealing with those. So I always try to keep surface sizes down. But for this particular project, the only area I'm interested in for this particular task that I'm working on, it might be a sheet, it might be a grading exercise, it might be who knows what, right? It is just this area here, and not even this entire area, just a part of it. But what I don't want to do is I don't want to data reference this surface into the sheet that I'm working in, because then I have 200 some odd thousand points that I have to deal with. And well, that's just a pain in the ass, and I don't want to have to do it. So what we can do is we can create crop surfaces. So if you're not familiar with crop surfaces are great. It's kind of like a data reference, but not really. It's like it's almost like you're data referencing a part of a surface. All right, so bear with me for just a moment. So in this particular case, I'm just going to come in here and draw a polyline. So the area I'm interested in, for whatever reason, is that area there. And I'm just drawing something random, right? But I want to be able to use just that piece of the surface in another drawing. So on the Home tab, I'll go Surfaces, Create Crop Surface. All right. And of course, the drawing head. I hate commands that require you to save right before you run the command. Because if I close out of this and I'm like, okay, so let me go ahead and save. All right, so I do a quick save and I'm like, ooh, what's that? Okay, let me go ahead and run the command. Home, surfaces, create crop surface. I haven't saved it because I panned, which is
I
just stupid.
That's an AutoCAD thing that drives me crazy. A pan, a zoom, that should not be a command. When I hit undo or yeah, that should not invoke all of those features. That's stupid.
Yep, yep, yep. All right, so let me go ahead and save again here real quick. And then after I've saved, I'll go surfaces, create crop surface, and we're off to the races. All right. So which surface do you want to crop? So in this case, I only have the one surface in here. So I'm just going to use that surface. And then what area do I want to crop? So I'm not sure why they do it this way, but you click in the cell and then you have to click the ellipsis to the right of it. It's kind of annoying. I don't know why you do that. So I'll go ahead and click on that. And then I get some command line options. So I can select the first corner. So I can do a rectangle. I can change it to doing a polygon, or I can select an object in the drawing. So I'm just going to select that object that I've already drawn and then enter. And then it's going to ask me to select a point in the area to crop. So this is the area that I want to keep. So I pick a point inside of that area, and I've now selected the crop area. Now, this surface is going to be created in another drawing. Which drawing do you want to create this in? All right, so for under create new surface, drawing for new surface, we have three options. We can create a new drawing, we can select an open drawing, or specify an existing drawing. So if I already have the drawing open that I wanted this to go into, I just choose select an open drawing, and then I choose the drawing that I want it to go into. In this case, I don't want it to go into drawing one. I want it to go in an existing drawing. So I specify an existing drawing, and then I can browse for that drawing. And what this will do, this will actually open up that drawing because this has to go into an open drawing. If the drawing isn't open or it doesn't exist, it will either open it or create it. So in this case, I'm just going to have it create a brand new drawing. So I'm going to create a new drawing. And then my option here is to choose the template. So I'm going to choose the template that I'm going to use for this. And you can see what it's done is it's created drawing 3 for me. So this is actually going into drawing 3 now. What do I want to name the surface? So maybe this is the North Pond Grading EG. Right, I'm just making something up. You can give it a nice description if you like. You can choose the style that you want the surface to use. So I'm going to change this to the Survey Topo Contours 1 and 5. And then what layer do you want it to go onto? If you don't specify a layer here, it will use the default layers in the settings of that drawing, or I can specify the layer. I'm just going to leave it set to the default. Select OK. And it's now created this new drawing. And it's referenced that or created the crop surface in this drawing. I don't see it because I'm not zoomed in that area. Quick zoom extents, and there is the surface. And you can see compared to that 200 and some odd thousand point surface, this surface only has 4,000 points. So it's much easier to work with. I don't have all the overhead or all those other points. It's just nice. But Brian, what happens if that data changes? So what happens if this surface changes? Well, the way it's set up right now, this surface doesn't care. It's just going to stay the way it was, unless you turn off the snapshot. So if I go into the surface properties, what you'll see under the definition tab is it has created a snapshot. So it created the crop surface, and then it's created a snapshot. And so what a snapshot is, well, you can think of it like a snapshot, right? I'm taking a picture of the way the surface is at this point, right? And so when I rebuild the surface, it starts at the snapshot and then does anything after it. And you can add additional data to this surface, right? This is not a data reference. This is a surface in this drawing that gets data from a part of another surface, and then it creates the snapshot. But if that original surface changes, I can just come in here and turn off the snapshot. And then let me go ahead and save this drawing here real quick. Let's see, I'll throw it in here. Call this one grading. I'll go ahead and close this surface. And I'll make a change to this particular surface here. So I'll just draw, I don't know, a polyline in here. This is going to look silly. What elevations do I have in here? So we're talking 760. So I'll set this to an elevation of, I don't know, about 700. And then I will add this as a break line. All right, so you can see I've got some nice stuff going on here. Go ahead and save this drawing. And then when I go open up that other drawing, so my pond grading, I don't see those changes. Why don't I see the changes? Because the surface was not set to rebuild automatically. So I'll go ahead and, it was set to rebuild automatically. Maybe I just have to force a rebuild on it. So I force a rebuild on it, and you can see it's now updated. So crop surfaces are great. If you want that dynamic link between them, you can turn off the snapshot, and if the source surface changes, this one will change. And again, this is just a surface in this drawing, so I can add additional data. So if I wanted to, I could say, hey, I want to draw another contour over here. And I'll add that in. And interesting. Should have added it. Maybe it treats it like some sort of an automatic boundary. Maybe it has to be inside of the surface. Yeah, that's what it is. Interesting. See, even I learned something new today. So it somehow defines, no, it's doing something weird. Maybe there's let's see. See, even I'm learning something new. Go to build, use maximum triangle length. That's probably what it was. Never rebuild. No, it's still something else. Not sure what's causing it to sometimes break out, but other times not. But anyways, it's cool.
Oh, are you outside the boundary of the surface, so it's trying to add to it?
Well, the surface doesn't have a boundary.
Well, the original surface that your data ref
Oh, that
clicking.
could be. That could be. Um,
And that was not me, that was Robert who suggested that.
that's a good call, Robert. Let's try that. So let me go ahead and drag from surface, drag objects. Border is what I want. Copy that. Paste original. That's it. Good call. And then there's
Robert
probably
for the
some other
win.
setting in there that's trimming these up, but that's probably why. Yeah, you can see it's working now, but as soon as I move outside of it, why is it snapping? I don't have my snaps on. It goes away. So that's probably what it was. Good call, Robert.
So follow-up to that, is there a file size advantage of creating a cropped surface over creating a partial data reference?
Is there a partial data reference? Is that a thing now that I didn't know about?
This is kind
I
of
don't
like
know.
this is kind of like X clipping and data referencing all in one.
Yeah. Mm, kind of, yeah. Um, set working folder.
So now I'm actually got to give us a follow-up. What is a partial data reference?
Exactly. Project current drawing. I don't know if there's an option for partial data short reference. Who,
Oh,
who,
they're
who
new for
mentioned that one?
2026. It's done when you reference it into a new
Into the
drawing.
new drawing? Okay. So let's create the data shortcut.
Thank you, Jason. So the difference, Max, would be that didn't exist prior to this version that nobody's probably using.
Create the reference. Reference part of the surface. Interesting. That's turned off.
So now we know what Brian's going to step research and look into for his preview for next month's Cell
Right.
Chat.
Right. But yeah, I wasn't aware of the partial. referencing part of a surface. So cool. I learned something new today. Love it.
You've learned like three new things and we're only, 19 minutes in.
Yeah, yeah. This is awesome.
So we can't
Oh,
answer
maybe
your
I,
question,
yeah.
Max, of if it's better for file size because Brian didn't know if it even existed.
So maybe we need to close polyline in here before you can do the, no, no, it's still not there as an option. I'm not sure why it's not working here. I'll have to look into it. But pretty cool.
Alrighty, that was all
I
the
like it.
follow-up questions. Should we jump into the real questions?
Sure.
So Corey had a question up here saying, how do you manage checking standards adherence across your company, all the way down from file naming inside the CAD files to inside the CAD standards?
So we don't have a file naming standard here at GEI. It's something I've considered, but it's not something that we've mandated. We were talking about Vault earlier today. I know Vault has the capability of CAD naming standards, so it has to be named certain ways. But I don't know of anybody that's using Vault, so that's probably not a viable option for that. But basically, when you create a drawing from within Vault, it has to meet certain criteria for the file naming. As far as within the CAD file standards, we have what's known as the standards file. So I go take a look at my CAD support, 2026 templates. We
My
have
answer to that, while he's browsing, is a big metal ruler.
So we have a DWS file, which is a drawing standards file. And basically what this drawing has, it has all of our stuff in it, all of our layers, all our plot style, not our plot styles, all of our layers, all of our text styles, multi-layer styles, dimension styles, those types of things. And then you can compare a drawing to that standard. It's done through the standards. You would add the standards file here. So I'll just go ahead and add that in. To the overall standards. Right. And then under the plugins, you can choose what it is you want to check. Right. So these are the things that it will check against. And then I can go ahead and then under the settings, so before I check the standards, I can say, hey, I want to disable notification, set alert upon standards, display standard status bar. I can have it automatically fix things. I can show ignore problems. Which do you have a preferred standards file to use for replacements, etc. So I'll go ahead and select OK here. And then where's the standards checker? Is this it? All right, so if I click on this little icon down here, it'll show the standards, and then I can fix them. And then it'll show me the properties that are in violation of it. And so this is how you can go through and check your standards against your drawing against a standard. And if you're like, yeah, I know this doesn't work. So let's say, for example, I go create a new layer. So I'm just going to use -LA because I love using this route. I'm going to make a new layer and I'm going to call it Brian Temp. Why? Because why not? And because I've got that standards file attached to this drawing, it says, hey, a standard violation has occurred. So I can run the check and it'll say, find it in here somewhere.
I think it was the last thing.
Was it?
Oh, no, never mind.
There we get into the layers. Right, it'll find the layer that's the issue. And if it's like, yeah, I know it's in violation of the standards, but for this project, I need this layer that's not a part of the standards. You can just mark the problem as ignored and then it won't check that again. Or I can say fix it. Hey, I want to fix it, and I want to fix the settings based off of the standards versus this drawing, and that's how you can go about checking those types of things.
So I have a follow-up to that. Can you tell
Yeah,
who made it wrong to start with?
not
So
that
you
I
can
know
go
of.
educate them or slap them with a big metal ruler.
And do some wall-to-wall counseling.
Yeah, and when you start talking file naming, unfortunately, there's not really a great way inside of the universe, without sort of, having, like Brian said, using Vault or something like that to make sure people are using the right file names.
Yeah.
Personally, for me, I do like File Renamer because even if I'm just trying to browse for file names, I can open that up and do searches for like certain characters, and if it's wrong, say fix it. So I use File Renamer. I'm a small company. I can do things like that. It's like a $20 program. It's like pretty simple and easy to use. Actually, it's free and there's a $20 version, but
Issue with that with CAD though is it'll break references. So you gotta be careful with just renaming files.
no, I just renamed the file because the idiots aren't following it. Then they've got to go figure out why the references are broken and they won't learn for next time. Or as Nathan said, it's public shaming. And then I know, hey, all my files are broken. Why? Oh, because you spelt them incorrectly. So guess what? You need to understand you've got to go through this process of remapping all of them because you didn't follow the standards. You start making people do work 2 or 3 times, they start following the rules.
Right, right.
I would even go in personally for me. I even go in and say, "Hey, you didn't name this properly. That's the name of the file. Name me properly. Name me properly one. Name me properly three." So I know it'll break everything. And then they've got to figure out which file they've got to repath because now it doesn't even have the same name.
Love it.
You make somebody work really hard once, they will do it right the next time. All right, so Robert has a question. Is there a way to reduce the size of the mask used when creating PNP sheets when using the create view frames method? Example, to get a 500-foot PNP at 20 scale in the viewport, in the template it has to be over 27 foot when it only needs to be 25 feet plus a smidge. The mask is taking up 20 feet on each side, so he has to basically has to extend the viewports to make the mask smaller and then re-bring the viewport back down. So is there a default setting for the mask when using PNP sheets?
Are you talking about the mask on the match lines or something else, Robert?
Yes, the match lines.
Um, well, not exactly sure I follow, but let's see if I can figure this out. So your match lines. So we go into, it's in here somewhere. Why are these never? Oh, it'd be so nice if this was just alphabetical. Right. So for those of you that might not be aware, when you're creating plan and profile sheets using the plan production tools in Civil 3D, it will put match lines in. So, you have sheet one, sheet two, sheet three, et cetera, et cetera. And I want to mask everything outside of the match lines for this particular sheet. And so you can turn on the display of the match line mask. And what it'll do is it'll mask the drawing outside of that. So let's see. Let me use one of the sample drawings that comes with Civil 3D. No. Plan production. I think this one will work. Okay. So I'm gonna go through the process here real quick, and then I'll have something at least that we can use to discuss, Robert. All right. So I'm gonna go to the Output tab, create view frames. And let's see, we'll do it for the long one here. I can't remember which one this is called. This is Maple Road. Awesome. We'll use that one works. Apparently it doesn't work. We'll go to our plan production folder. We'll do this GEI Civil 3D. We'll do this at 1 to 40. A tip, set your scale here to match your scale here when you do, no, that's, never mind, wrong tip. That was for creating section view sheets. Do this fairly quickly. Yeah, everything here is fine. We'll just go ahead and create those view frames. So I've got 4 view frames here. And now when I go to create the sheets, oh yeah, have to save the drawing, and I can't quick save it, so I have to do a save as. So the drawings are just write protected in the tutorial folder. That's why I have to do this. Go here. And now go ahead and do the create sheets. And I'll just go ahead and create them all in this sheet. I'll stop. So I'll do all layouts in the current drawing just because I don't want him to deal with new drawings. Going to create a sheet set for me. That's fine. And then I'll just go ahead and create the view from them. And then we'll be able to see what it is I'm referring to. So you can see this white blob over here, that is the mask. So if I adjust the match line, which I can't do because it's like perfect. But if I go into the match line style, I can turn off that match line mask and I can now see the area behind it. Right. And so that's the mask that Robert was referring to. And correct me if I got that wrong, Robert. So the question, create plan profile sheets to use a create to get 500 plan and profile at 20 scale. The viewport in the template has to be 27 inches long, but it only needs 25 inches, but a smidge hanging up 20 feet on each side. I want my white space back without having to stretch each viewport. All right, I'm still not sure what you're referring to, Robert. Would you be willing to come off mute and have a chat with us? All right, you should be able to unmute and talk.
Hello.
Hey, Robert.
Yeah, I was creating 20 scale plan and profiles
Uh-huh.
and horizontal road. The engineer wanted them to be on even 100-foot at 500-foot spacing. Now our template had a 23-inch wide viewport that gave me a 400-foot plan and profile section. To make it 500 foot, I thought it would just be simply changing it to a 25-inch viewport and paper space. 25 times 20 gives you the 500. It still created a 400-foot view space, plan view, with a large mask on each side. To get to the 500-foot mark, the viewport in the template had to be 27 inches.
Okay. So what might be causing that? So when you're creating your sheets, the thing that controls how much you can get per sheet is the profile, right? It's not unless you're doing plan only. Are you doing plan only or are you doing plan and profile?
This was plan and profile, and both viewports in the template were the same width.
Okay. So the thing that controls how much alignment you can see on your sheet is the profile, right? Because basically you can see this alignment is curved, and the profile is basically a straightened out version of that alignment. So this is what controls how much you can see. But if you notice, there's a a gap over here on the far left-hand side. So it's not just how much station can I fit in here. If I go into the profile view properties, go to the bands, you can see there's a band in here. And if I go edit the style, and I don't know if this is what's causing it in your case, but I'm gonna go ahead and edit this style, and I'm gonna go ahead and just turn everything on here. And so what you can see is this band box on the left-hand side has to be able to fit within the viewport. So I would check to make sure that you don't have bands that have displays or displaying stuff on the outsides of the where you want the profile to be that's causing this shift. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. I will check that the band doesn't have its title on the side.
Right. So, and it could be any of the bands that are in that band set. But you know, this profile view or this viewport, you said, you know, I want it to be 25 inches long, but if you've got 1.5 inches sticking out on the side, then really it's only 23.5 inches long.
Of usable space. Yeah, that's what it created.
Exactly. Of profilable space, if that makes sense.
That makes sense. I was looking in the plan section, not the profile.
Yeah. Because because it's the profile that controls how much you can fit on. Another thing that might be coming into play is when you go create the view frames. All right, so I'll go through this again. So create the view frames. Where is it? There's an option to allow additional distance for repositioning, right? And it increases the view overlap.
Yeah,
so
I had that
30
down.
foot in here, you know, basically instead of going here, they're overlapping each other like this. So the area between my hands will be visible on both sheets. So that's another place that you might want to look to see if that's where it happened.
Yeah, I had my snap station value down to the nearest 100 foot and I ended up unchecking the overlap.
Okay. Yeah, and this is why I couldn't adjust my match line for people that might be wondering, is because I did not allow any distance for overlap. So basically I was down to the nearest foot. And because I didn't have any additional option for overlap, I couldn't adjust the match line because it had to be the match line has to be in that overlap. So hopefully that gets you what you need, Robert.
It's something to check. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure.
How do I go back on mute?
Oops. See, I've been talking and I didn't realize I was muted. I muted when I sneezed and forgot to undo it. Tom said check for grid labels outside of the PV grids as well. And then Lisa said, can you create your own PP sheet to the proper plot size?
So I'm going to address Tom's comment first. So if you're referring to these labels here, as far as I know, these labels don't affect the profile view size. It's the profile, the grid itself, and the band. So if I remove this, so as you can see, I've got labels out here on the right-hand side, but if I go to my sheet, it goes right up to the edge. It's probably because that's a split view, but. So you can see I've got labels on the outside here, but those labels, it doesn't adjust the profile, the viewport. It ignores those. It just takes a look at the grid and then any boxes for the bands. And then what was the other question?
It was actually a Q&A pod from Lisa. Can you create your own PP sheet to the proper plot size?
Yeah, so creating sheets is super, super easy. All right, let me go ahead and do that real quick. I'm just going to create a brand new blank drawing here. And then you would basically bring in a viewport or your title block. You create the layout tab. However you do that at your office. So I'll just go ahead and do that here real quick for ours. And then you would create two viewports. So let's go viewports. I'll do 2 horizontal. And we'll just go from there to there. So I now have a viewport in the north, on the top of the sheet, one in the bottom of the sheet. Set these up to the scale. All right, so this is going to be plotting at a 50 scale. So I set each one to a 50 scale. And then you need to tell which viewport is the plan, which one is the profile. So I go into the properties of the viewport, and down at the bottom, I can, where is it? It's in here somewhere. Viewport type, right now it's set to undefined, so this will be the plan viewport. And then this would be the profile viewport. And if you're doing this for section sheets, you could use the section as well. If you're doing plan sheets and you want, a plan view at the top and a plan view at the bottom, that's where the order comes into play. Right? You can say, hey, this is number 1, this is number 2, etc. And that's really all there is to it. And then you just need to make sure that it's sized correctly for the scale you're plotting at, and you're off to the races. You don't need any styles in this drawing. It will bring in all the styles into the drawing as it creates the parts. So, yeah.
Beautiful.
Awesome. We had a lot of questions. Wow.
Yeah. So Carrie asked, not very optimistic that Civil 3D has a workaround for this, but figured she'd ask the expert. Any suggestions on how to create a pipe network structure profile label that includes both existing and proposed invert connections to the same structure? We sort of achieved this by combining X and prop pod networks into a single network. We are running into issues where we cannot adjust the text style for existing versus proposed. Can an expression be used with the label properties?
So, Carrie, it sounds like what you really want is a label that displays the existing information with one text style and the proposed information with a different text style. Does it sound like I've got that correct? Okay. So the problem with and this is for structures, right? Did I read that right? Or is this, yeah, so it's the structure label. Okay. So if we go into our structure label style, I'm just going to create a new one here. On the layout, what we've got is we get this option for text for each. And what this will do is it'll say, hey, I've got 5 pipes that are coming into this structure. Now, for each one of the pipes, I want to put in this information. So when I do a text for each, I can do it for inflow pipes and for outflow pipes, but I can't do it for pipes of one style versus pipes of a different style, right? So I've got a pipe that has the existing style and a pipe that has proposed style. I don't know of a way to identify which one's which there. Now, you did mention expressions, so there might be a way around that. You might be able to use a property in the pipe, right? So if let's see, let me just open up a pipe drawing. So drawing that has pipes in it. So you might be able to use an unused property. Let's say, for example, this is a sanitary sewer and you don't care about hydraulic grade lines or energy grade lines. You're not doing that in here, right? So within the pipe properties, you might go in and say, hey, if my hydraulic grade line or one of these properties is a certain value, then maybe I can use an expression for that. And I don't know, that's a fantastic idea. So let's take a look. Let's go back to our structure label styles. And let's see what kind of expressions we can get out of here. So let's go into create a new expression, and we'll take a look at the properties. that are available. So these all look to be pipe. These all look like structure properties. So we might not be able to do it there, but we might be able to do a pipe expression. So let's say the energy grade line down is equal to 0. So we'll go, if the energy grade line down, or whatever property it is you decide is equal to 0, then put in 0, otherwise be a 0.112. So, tenth of an inch. And then I can use that expression in the height of the text. But I'm not sure if I can use that. I gotta give it a name. We'll go at, I don't know, simple chat. I don't know if I can use that in this and here. So if I edit create a new one, layout, we'll do text for each structure, all pipes. And then text height. Yeah, so you can see that expression is not showing up here. Can I use that expression here? No, I can't use that expression here either. So it doesn't look like expressions will go from pipes. I can't take a property of a pipe and use an expression on it in a structure label for each. So yeah, there's not a way that I can think of off the top of my head on how to do this.
Property set data to add additional labels? Question mark.
Preset data. But again, it's that text for each piece that we're missing. Because I want the invert for pipe 1 and the invert for pipe 2 and the invert for pipe 3, et cetera, right? But how do I get the ones for certain pipes to look one way and other pipes to look a different way? The only way I can think of to do that would be to label it twice, or no, even that wouldn't work. You'd have to have them in different networks, and then have the structure and the profile view, and then label both of those structures using different label styles. And then you would have to adjust the label styles to get them to look the way you want them to look. And that's a pain in the butt for sure. Gosh.
So, Carrie,
I get what
correct.
you're wanting to do, Carrie, and it totally makes sense.
And she's correct. She was not optimistic there's a workaround.
Not an easy one, for sure. So, yeah, sorry about that, Carrie. It's a great question, and it seems like it's something we should be able to do, but I don't know of a way to do it.
Oh. Down at the bottom, I don't know if this answer is if this comment is for what you're doing about the very complicated content in labels or tables, you could use the information from the custom property sets using brackets, bracket, PS property set name and property set
Yeah.
name.
So yeah, you for sure can put property set data into a label. But the question isn't how do I get the data into the label? The question is how do I get this one label component to display differently based off of a property of the thing it's labeling?
Yeah,
And you can't create a structure label expression for a pipe property. And pipe expressions don't come into this structure label.
and of course the
So
typical answer,
yeah,
use
gosh,
Dynamo to
that's
push
a tough one.
Typical answer, use Dynamo to push the properties across.
Yeah, you might be able to create some sort of a custom label with Dynamo, but even then you wouldn't be using those structure labels, you'd be using something else.
Yeah, and basically she said the workaround is what you said. Have two separate networks. It's in the comments, in
Yeah,
the chat. Have two separate networks, put them on the same structure, and ghost style one of them so you can tag it.
yeah, yeah. Unfortunately.
All right, so Sarah had a question. We are
Uh,
making the jump to ACC Docs, Bin Collaborate Pro for our AutoCAD and Revit files. Do you have recommendations for good resource on how to and best practices for managing the DWG files?
um, depends upon what you mean by manage the DWG files. So that's kind of a broad term that can mean a lot of different things.
The one thing I'll say on this one too is to understand that whenever you're going to start jumping to ACC, you need to make sure you have desktop connector. And with that desktop connector
Oh, for
run,
sure.
with desktop connector running, you also need to make sure that you subscribe to the project. And this is where 90% of my ACC questions come from. People are like, "Hey, we've put this up on ACC, but I'm not seeing it when I go to hit my file open." So you've got to go into your docs and go say, "Cool, I need to select the project."
Yeah, so within your desktop connector, you make sure you select the projects, and then any projects that you are a member of will show up here. All right, so if I come under GEI Consultants, you can see because I'm the CAD manager, I get assigned to like all of them, right? But you would just go choose the ones that you're working on, and if you get added to a new project, you have to make sure you come in here and add that as well.
Yes.
And I really like this concept because now when I go into the projects that I'm working on, I'm not looking at, we have the working folder with all of our projects, our clients, and all of our projects in there. I don't have to do that now. All I have to do is go in here and I'm just seeing the projects that I'm currently working on. And when I'm done with this project, I go say, hey, I don't want to include this anymore. I want to include the next project I'm in, and then this list changes for me. So
Yeah.
yeah, so that's the big part. And then other than that, I mean, if you're talking about just like working in your drawings, it's really no different than working off a network or local, really. You just work in them. Make sure all of your references are relative. I don't think you can do an absolute reference in if you're working in docs, but I don't know. I haven't tried. Our
I'm going
standard
to
is to make them
say,
all relative anyways.
and I was going to suggest the other thing is, so I know that I set up ACC projects for quite a few of my clients, and we have had a couple people coming in on the Civil 3D side. So a lot of it's also going to boil down to permissions that each user is given on your Civil 3D side for your DWG files. So we have run into some permission issues where if the person wasn't assigned the right permissions on the folders on ACC. So that's something else. If you're setting it up, great. If you're not, and you're working with somebody else, you just might need to say, hey, this is what we're going to need permission wise on these folders and or subfolders when you look at it.
Yeah.
So that's another huge thing on ACC that's always a pain in the butt.
One issue that we ran into with having projects up in ACC was plotting through SheetSet Manager. So in your SheetSet Manager, if you're using 2026.1 or 2025, if you open up a SheetSet Manager that's on the web, you'll get the SheetSet for web. And if you publish using SheetSet for web, it'll actually publish using AutoCAD for the web. So it won't use your computer to do the publishing. And you need to make sure that all of your support files are up on each user's AutoCAD for web settings, and it's a royal pain. There is a system variable, I believe it's called SSM detect. And you can turn that either on or off, and then you can force an ACC sheet set to open up in the regular sheet set manager. And then when you publish it, it will publish it locally on your machine and it will use all of your support files. So your
And
line
you
types, your
talk
plot styles, and things like that.
and you and Tomasi talked intensely about that either last month or the month before as Civil Chat. So go back in the recording. There was big talk about that too.
Right. And then there's also But in 2026.2, they've gotten rid of the sheet set manager for web, and it's just now just your sheet set manager. So you don't have to worry about that if you're on 26.2. So if you're using ACC, I would recommend making sure that you're on 2026.2 because it'll just make your sheet set manager life a lot easier. So hopefully that helps, Sarah. Okay, what else? What do we got next?
So my custom partial CUI file name is retaining my Windows username instead of updating to the current user's username. Have you encountered that issue?
I don't think so. So you're loading up a partial customization folder file, right? And you're loading it from your user profile, and then it's remembering that. Is that the question, Quinn?
Loading it
Loading
from
it from
ACC.
ACC. So your CUI file is on ACC? Oh, I have no idea. That sounds scary to me. All of our CUI files are held local, so I don't know how that would work.
This actually sounds like an ACC problem to me that I run into quite often because when you're loading it from ACC, it's going to go through Desktop Connector. And I quite often see when I'm doing like links, granted I'm a Revit user, where it'll maintain the, user name under the ACC not the ACC, but your Desktop Connector. So it's going under your user profile. I see that quite often with links in the Revit workflow, where that's why I just don't trust Docs and the way the Desktop Connector is working. Because quite often I'm like, oh, wait, for some reason this mapped to this person's thing. I know it's gotten better over the years with the different Desktop Connector versions. So I know like version 16.0 or whatever it was failed miserably at that, and they keep improving in each of those. But I'm wondering if that could be some of the issue too. That it's
Yeah,
just your desktop connector saying, cool, I'm not going to swap it to the new person's name. I'm going to hard code in your name.
right. Another place where I've seen that sort of thing is if you need to share a file with somebody else. So I'm in this drawing, and Brian, you're like, oh, what drawing is that? Well, in the past, I just right-clicked on the file and said copy full file path. But if the project is an ACC project, so I'm just going to create a piece of text here. And then if I paste that in, you can see it says C users B Haley as the path. And so Brian just wouldn't be able to just paste this path in, even though we're both part of the same project.
Yeah.
So I think it's probably something similar to that.
Tom's saying he hasn't seen the issue.
Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe Quinn, you can reach out to Tom, and Tom would be able to help you out with that. Okay.
All
What do
right.
we got?
Sean
We got
has
3
it.
minutes.
All right. We got 3 minutes.
I can answer Sean's real quick.
Yeah, I was going to say we'll do Sean's real quick. Can you show how to create a surface from text elevations provided to you by a surveyor?
Yep. So if I have a piece of text in here, and let's say it's 5280. All right, so a piece of text. What you'll notice is the elevation of this piece of text. The Z value is set to 0. That won't work. The text has to be at the elevation. The text object needs to be at the elevation of the text. Now, if I remember correctly, if I go to modify surfaces. This where it is? No, it's not general tools. It is move to surface, move text to elevation. So your surface contextual tab, however you want to bring that up, under move to surface, there's move text to elevation. I'll go ahead and select that. And now you can see that the elevation of this is at 5280. So that's step number 1. Step number 2, when you add that to the surface, all right, so I just created a surface here. To add that, you would add that as a drawing object. So I'll right-click on drawing objects, choose OK. This would be text. Select OK. You can select that, and that is now part of the surface. I wonder if it will give me data. Nope, statistics, this wasn't fun. No, so I'd have to have multiple in here. So let me just copy this a few times. Delete. Drawing objects, add. Text, okay. Grab those. And now if I go to my surface properties, general, you can see the minimum mean elevation is 5280. So there we go. So that's how I would do that, Sean. And it takes
I
whatever
like-
the insertion point of the text is as a point in the surface.
Yeah, this also makes sure note that this uses the insertion point, as you just said, for the text elevation location.
Yep.
But I did like, I don't know, for Thomas's comment. No, you just need to get a new surveyor.
Right? Yeah, for sure.
All right, it's bottom of the hour. We had 4 questions left you didn't get to. It's up to you if you want to continue or if you have to jump into meetings.
I gotta get going. I got a call that I missed while we're on here that I need to call back. So
Although Greg
thank you.
said you haven't posted last month's show to your YouTube channel.
I didn't?
I don't know.
Oh, okay. I will make sure that gets posted as well as this one then.
I did put the link for you into the beginning of the chat, so everybody should have your YouTube link. So
Perfect. Yeah, it's just look up Civil 3D or C3D Plus or Civil 3D Plus. I can't remember how it's listed there. It's on YouTube. Look for my name. Find me. I'm out there.
I
Easy
put
to
it at
find.
the top of the chat. If you get into the top of the chat, I posted a link up there.
Excellent. Thank you. Well, thank you, everybody. We'll see you again next month. Until then, take care and be excellent to each other.
Thanks, everyone. Don't end it yet. Never mind, you can end it.
Okay.